Hi. So today I want to talk about archangels, religion, and also a lot of these entities, deities, gods, and various beings messing with us, messing with others, and what the hell is really going on. Now, just a little announcement or note, like I'm gonna be all over the place. Like I'm not feeling like I have a complete message. I'm gonna tell you it's gonna be straight, short, and all like really great. And now I'm all over the place really. So I'm just gonna start. Anyway, I'm doing a session for a person. I'm basically getting out of body, scanning them, like seeing what's up, and like issues, like are trivial, and he's messing with a person, like their feelings, sensations all over the body, different things. And a big thing has to do with being drained from energy, losing parts of yourself, losing who you are, and constantly getting messed with. Like a person has the ability to hear those beings, see them, interact with them, and it's a daily thing. And like constantly, like no matter what you do, it's like peeling onion layers. You get rid of one entity, another one comes into space. You get rid of that one, another one comes in. So you constantly have to deal with them. And like we're just looking into what's going on, what the hell is like happening to this person. And one thing I'm trying to do when I get out of body and when I'm scanning things for people is to be a clean state. I have to make sure that all of my beliefs, whatever I experienced in my whole life, does not affect the session. And it's a big one for me because I always have to sort of question myself maybe, or like when I'm like looking at things, I'm like, is it really me seeing the stuff, or is it just me like affecting what I'm going to experience? For example, like, okay, we're going to deal with archangels. Specifically, with most of my experience, they're not nice beings, so I'm going to meet them, and I'm like, I do not want to have expectation. Oh, here it is again, that one is not going to be nice. Like I do not want that happening. So that's like one of those sessions where like it's gonna be a thing. And again, a note. I am creating absolutely everything. I'm creating you, I'm creating my surroundings, I'm creating my reality. You're creating your reality. Whatever I'm saying is your creation, it's my creation, stuff like that. So like we can go all over the place being philosophical, but what I'm gonna say right now is just what I saw, and it's one of those possibilities. It's not like it is the only thing, and hold on to that one. Like, hey, this is just a possibility of what I saw this time. We're like not sure if it's like really right or really the thing, but it's just like my experience. This is what happening on that timeline for that person. That's what I saw. I can be completely wrong, so feel free to look for your own truth, question me, find whatever fits your belief system. But that being said, we can finally go on to that stuff. So, yeah, I'm working with a person. And one thing I'm seeing, like, first, there's a lot of these like entities crawling on the person. Like, entities can have tons of different shapes, but specifically these ones are like small little bubble forms. They a lot. Sorry. So like these entities can be like little nanoparticles, atoms. Like you can't really see them, but they gather like by billions, and it's like literally standing on the anthill. These entities can literally start crawling up your feet, and while some people might feel it on the physical level, some of them, like are not aware of it. So like, how are these entities affecting us? Some of them will literally work like a shield. For example, we are open. We're trying to, get the energy from the multiverse. We're trying to fill ourselves up, like work with like regarding chakras and like do the whole Kundalini meditation, different things for different people. But a lot of us are trying to get energy, be energized, and do great in life. Now these entities, they crawl on to people and create this whole blockage. So they're like, so it's as if like they're clogging the whole system, like meridian points, chakras. So the person has no energy, it's all limited, and the whole flow of energy is stopped, is clogged. So removing these like things, like okay, we're doing that and stuff. And one of the best things to do while you're dealing with entities is track for the hierarchy, because when you work with entities, they always like, or like the dark side always has, like their whole system, their hierarchy. It's always peasants and little things a little bit above. We always have a king or a politician or someone else above, like like it's always a thing. And the whole thing with like religion and rules, like someone's gonna be like a student, a teacher, or someone else. Like we're gonna have level 1, level 2, all this stuff, even like this whole matrix thing. Third dimension, fourth dimension, fifth dimension, bullshit. So, that being said, when working with entities, always look for the hierarchy. Once you get rid of them in your space, ask yourself or ask them, who's above you? Who's above this entity? Who's controlling them? Who's above them? Once you find a leader, and you can go on so much. You can go through millions and billions of beings until you find a head. Sometimes it's just a few, but really, sometimes it's entities, sometimes it's like like grace above, reptilians, Anunnaki, humans, other people. Like really, it's a lot. So once you find the hierarchy and the leader, you take off the biggest thing, and the whole pyramid falls off. So like if you were able to deal with the biggest being messing with you, and like you remove the head of the hierarchy, the whole system falls apart, house of cards fall apart, and now a lot of these beings will scatter away because now they don't have someone controlling them, and they don't really want to mess with you in the first place. At least some of them. Again, for this person I'm working with, like I'm getting rid of these entities, I'm getting rid of these, okay, like we have small grays, we have different beings, and I finally track back the connection with Archangel Gabriel. And for a lot of people who are more like Christians, who are into religion, or who are into like spirit guides, they have a lot of connections to these archangels, to these like angelic beings and stuff. And again, some of them are great, some of them are not. Some beings might appear as really loving, others might be entities who take appearance of some religious figure or archangels and stuff, and they just put a label, oh, I'm gonna be Archangel Gabriel, while they might be creepy little assholes and stuff. So really, it's always a gamble of who you're really seeing, because for example, people die and they see their loved ones like, oh, my grandpa, I love you so much, I miss you and stuff, and all of a sudden they start feeling like, I just finally got you and stuff. So really be careful about it. So like as I'm tracking this whole hierarchy and like looking into like Archangel Gabriel, we know them was like okay, you're gonna like tell Mary about birth of like her, so she's gonna have a son and stuff like that. So he's kind of like a messenger. He's like he's gonna announce people about the birth and stuff like that. But like I'm gonna like looking into him and what he's doing. And so from my perspective, from what I saw in this session, this Archangel Gabriel is basically being a messenger, but it's like misguiding people. Whenever someone like really they have a goal, they have like, okay, I'm gonna do this, all of a sudden you find yourself doing simplest stuff. Like even like today, like I was just gonna make a video, like I'm feeling fired up, like because I just finished session, it's like damn, finally something new I'm gonna talk about, I'm gonna share it in a video, see if other people have saw something similar. And I turned on my PC, and everything's going sideways. Like really, the whole PC seems like lag as can be, can't load shit. The whole disk is like full 100%. I'm like, I had to stop. Like, okay, stop fixing the problem, make a video, then do that. So like a lot of people might even track like where you have a goal in life. It's like literally like procrastination. You're gonna have a goal, you're gonna do something, you're gonna work on it, and all of a sudden you find yourself drinking, soda, beer, or whatever. Like, what was I doing? Like kind of like that. So like Archangel Gabriel can literally connect to beings and sort of shift their thoughts. So like you have an original thought, maybe idea or urge, and all of a sudden it switches. Like you had an idea, oh, I'm gonna go learn something, I'm gonna go study, and all of a sudden you're sitting at the PC playing games, reading books, or whatever. Different things. But like people might notice it, and I started tracking this being like specifically messing with like my like the person I was working with. I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna find him, like I'm gonna talk to him. And as I'm like trying to talk to the Gabriel, he just takes off running. He really does not want to talk to me, does not want to confront me. And I'm like, okay, this is weird, but I'm just gonna go follow him and stuff. So basically I'm able to catch him, like I'm really more like being a bit more aggressive, because it's like more like, hey, why are you messing with so many people? Because I'm just like seeing it's not just the specific person, but like a lot of people. So like really grab him by the throat and we're having conversation, right? I finally have a hold of him and I'm being a bit more aggressive. And I'm learning that like whenever people are connected to, let's say, religions, and they make agreements with gods, agreements with Bible, agreements about like like their whole belief system and stuff, these agreements specifically with religions, and from what I saw and learned from Archangel Gabriel, is that it's not just for one person. Like one person might be like, okay, no killing for me, like, oh, be straight, be, like specific rules that God says, whatever your God is and stuff like that. Person follows the commandments and stuff like that, and this is their rule, this is their life. But the thing is, it's like agreeing to stuff. But with religion and the way it is set up, is going to be agreement not just for you, but your whole ancestral like lineage, your bloodlines, whatever. So for example, you make one agreement and your children and your grandchildren and your great-grandchildren will have this stuff, or your parents, your grandparents, your great-grandparents made agreements with God and stuff, and now it's affecting you. Like, why the hell am I poor? Why the hell am I suffering? Because God died for your sins and all this bullshit and all this crap. And like religious people can attack me and say anything they want, but I have my own opinion on belief systems and what I'm seeing, and I'm just going to share for it. And you believe what you want to believe. You believe what is best for you. Look for your own truth. I'm just sharing my message, and I'm choosing my own path. You choose yours. I'm living my life. You live yours. Like all that stuff. Because some people are really like, oh, God is this, and you have to be doing it like God. And like they're really forcing you to go their way, and like, makes it wonder. Anyway, back to business. So when people make agreements, it's like for the whole lineage, and people might agree, like, like, oh yeah, like good people are poor people, rich people are bad people, and there are like tons of these cliches and generalities that make up our belief system about how we should live our lives. But it can be our parents, great grandparents, and all these like people like who lived before us making these agreements, and now it's in our blood, it's in our DNA, living like that, living and being poor and being unlucky and being humble. And it's not like there's nothing bad to it. There's nothing bad to like living like a humble being. But some people, they want to live, they want to thrive. It doesn't mean that you need to have the fancy house and all the fast cars and all the girls or mans in the world. It's more like, hey, I just want to be happy. Happy means having a little place for myself, having a puppy, having a person that loves me, and not having to worry about my 24/7 job and trying to survive, but more like enjoying life. Some people just want simple things, and they can't get that. They have to work their ass off, and they're suffering every single day. And while most people, like are living in like poverty or like in hunger and stuff, others are just having fun and it's all lucky and stuff. But it's like literally tons of these cliche things, and it's carrying on through this whole like bloodline. So one thing you might be like, like as I'm talking, start looking and noticing stuff in your space. Look at your space if you have made any agreements with God, with religion, like you have any beliefs. And literally, agreement is simply like a belief you have about something. Oh, this is my hand, because someone told me it's a hand, and like it looks like a hand, so it's a hand. So I believe it's a hand, it's my agreement that this is a hand. Same with anything. You saw someone hit like a person or maybe like a bad thing to happen, and you describe the situation of how it is. You believe that's what happened. This is your truth because of what you believe. That's all the truth is. That's all your belief system, and that is your agreement of what is happening. So as you look through your life and as you look at what's going on, like poor people might be like will be good people, humble people is good people, like all rich ones are bad ones, stuff like that. All these cliche phrases, all these things in your life, in your space, but also scan for your family, for your like for your parents, for your siblings, for your great grandparents, your grandparents and stuff like that. Scan them, scan their stuff, because you don't have to change their life, but you have to take care of yourself. And whatever they believe in, you don't have to force them to believe what you believe. They can live their own life if they're happy about it. But for you, if you're looking for happiness, if you're looking for how can I live better, how can I stop being in this whole suffering, simply, okay, their agreements affecting me. I'm gonna get rid of these agreements. They can live their life, but for me, they're not gonna affect me anymore. So literally, if your grandparents, you see them living by those phrases, living by those rules and stuff, disconnect from that. Like make an agreement. Okay, no longer. I no longer agree to be, like in this, like poor people or good people. I'm a good person, but I can also have money and I can be happy and I can use the money to help others. Simple, So scan your space and look for that. So that being said, yeah, like a lot has to do with agreements we make with like God's religions and stuff like that, but there's more to it. I'm looking at this like Archangel Gabriel, and again, this is when in the session I'm like, wait a minute, okay, I have to look at myself. I have to make sure that my belief system, that my experience does not affect the session. So I have to scan, okay, like I know that in the like last 50 scans or like last 50 sessions, whenever I connected with anyone who's religious, anyone who's, religious being like specific gods, specific deities, specific like archangels and stuff, I saw them deceiving people, messing them up and stuff like that. Why is that? Is it just my belief system or is it really happening? And again, like I ask myself this question and I look at the Archangel Gabriel, and what I'm doing is like I'm allowing my consciousness to shift in him, to sort of like connect to him, to scan what happens. And what I'm seeing is quite an important thing. And again, this is just what I saw. I'm not saying that this is the only thing that is. Like there's like tons of things that can happen, tons of different timelines, tons of different events and stuff like that. But long ago, physical universe was great. Earth was nice. People who lived here, beings that lived here, they were good. Not everyone, but specific groups. Like I have to like be specific. Like reptilians are bad, humans are good. This is like no groups, specific people and stuff. So like on the fourth and fifth dimension, whenever you encounter, for example, a reptilian, it is very likely that the reptilian you will encounter in different dimensions will be into studying, into scientific processes, into being the best versions of themselves, but not into killing, enslaving, and stuff like that. There are a lot of reptilian groups out there who are interested into learning and being like the best and helping out others rather than enslaving. People that lived here before this whole place got corrupted, the physical universe, this whole matrix that got taken over, a lot of beings were living where they wanted to give and learn and study. But what happens is, and what I'm seeing this whole session throughout, like when I connect to the Archangel Gabriel, what I'm looking from his perspective, like why are you messing with a person and what's going on? Basically, a long time ago, I'm seeing like a consciousness coming in, and the consciousness decide to play the role of a bad being, because the consciousness can like live and have tons of different lives, tons of different experiences, and like like okay, this specific consciousness, like or let's say now the like a consciousness is taking the form of a being and is gonna like incarnate into something else, has like more, I guess, like advancement or understanding, more like experience with how things are. And while a lot of beings are experiencing, like, okay, I'm gonna have a lifetime of seeing what it's like being a very happy person, what it's like being into like having like a loving family, having children, and people will experience good stuff. But then when you do it for billions of years, eventually you get bored of that. Like, oh, here it is, happy family again, same old shit. People have like marry and they live for 20, 30 years and they get bored of their partner because it's same old stuff, because they don't know how to work with the variety and they don't know how to make it interesting and stuff. So same with the consciousness, once you live your lifetime for way too long, you want something new. We always crave for something new, because if you do not get better, if you're always stuck in one place, you're like, what's life? I don't want to live anymore, because really you need something new and stuff. People get bored and they commit suicide and stuff like that. So consciousness decides to like, okay, I'm gonna play the bad guy role. So comes to this physical universe and literally simultaneously takes over trillions, quadrillions of beings at the same time. And we're talking about advanced beings. We're talking about the consciousness that can take over tons of beings at the same time simultaneously and live through them all at the same time. If you had an ubi, if you had an astral projection, if you had an astral travel thing, if you had dreams where you get out of body, for example, and you have your body, but you can literally tune into the other person. Like, person that's standing in front of you, you can look from their perspective and your perspective at the same time. You're standing or sitting in a stadium, tons of people are watching this, like a sports game, or you're listening to your concert, and if you can have your consciousness shift into someone else's perspective, or all these 10,000 people watching a game at the same time, that's freaking advanced and that's freaking awesome, because you can be all of them at the same time, because you are consciousness, and consciousness is everyone and everything. So we're talking about this like consciousness that takes over the role of tons of beings, like quadrillions, like anyone like who is in this physical universe is constantly being taken over. And we're talking about being possessed, where consciousness that like, okay, I'm gonna be a human, I'm gonna be a reptilian, they live a life and all of a sudden they're gone. They're not conscious anymore. It's like literally we watch movies where a person is like doing great and then the demon takes over and the person is not aware what's going on. They're literally acting like crazy like a demon and stuff. Well, that's a thing, because like they're not aware anymore and like someone else takes over. So it's like scenario very much like that, where the consciousness comes in and takes over tons of beings, meaning gods, deities, reptilians, specific groups, not absolutely everyone, but specific groups, specific beings, specific people and stuff like that. It's like tons of them getting to take over. A lot of religious figures are included, and now this is where it turns into domination, control, taking over, and really playing this harsh game of life where we're stuck, we're suffering, and why the hell is going on? And why is it me going through all this stuff? Like, we're wondering through these questions. And so as I'm looking into this Archangel Gabriel, I see, fuck, my cat is just like really scared me. But anyway, as I'm looking into this Archangel Gabriel, I'm looking into his eyes, and like the real being pops up, and you see him in tears. You see him in being really like sort of sad about being taken over. And I'll say hi to my lovely cat. So yeah, you see this being taken over, and I'm not gonna let you turn off the video. So it's like someone who lived for giving people, for getting them better and stuff, for taking care of others, and now they're being taken over. And it's acting into messing people up, like ruining their lives, sucking out their energy. And the real being that lived there is really sad. They're devastated. They can't get out. They're stuck. And they have to suffer and watch this whole movie or life of, this is someone took over my life, someone took over my role, and they're ruining everything. They're ruining who I really am. And tons of beings having this experience. I guess really just messing around. So that's the message. Like, we're seeing like so many people go through their stuff. I can't. Sorry. like so many people are having harsh life and they're being messed with entities and being messed with tons of beings, and we're always pointing the finger at someone else doing this to me. And we assume the worst. We assume like this person is attacking me because they're bad. And even I like I look at these archangel beings and like, oh well, they're like assholes, they're like messing with people, it's all deception and stuff. And here I am having a chance to connect with the real beingness, people like godlike deities, archangels, other beings like like reptilians who are into giving, learning, becoming better. It got taken over, and the real being is crushed. They can't be themselves, they're stuck, and now they are being used to mess with others. So being aware of that, being aware that, okay, let's say some of the archangels that are messing with us, some of the beings, some of the entities, they are possessed by this, let's say, consciousness who wants to play a bad guy. What you can do about this thing is literally, imagine you're sitting in the room with someone else. Maybe it's your partner, maybe it's your loved one, maybe it's your pet, like along you, maybe it's like your cute little puppy, maybe it's your cat, like mine, or whatever. You're sitting here. What would it be like if you looked through the eyes, not from your perspective, but from their perspective? And all of a sudden, I move my consciousness from here to that little poster over there, and I'm looking through those wolf eyes, and I see myself here. I see my hair. I can move my consciousness and move throughout the room and walk anywhere. I can go into town. You have that ability. You can actually imagine that. You can move your consciousness, or you can think of it. But when there are beings, let's say archangels or other deities that are being taken over, that are messing with people that you're aware of, or you're simply assuming like, oh, that asshole is being taken over, or that asshole is nasty. Why is that? So you can literally shift your consciousness and have your consciousness enter their part. And if you see someone else in control, taking over, controlling them all, if you see a being stuck in there who has no control, no way to fight back, you can literally forcefully push out the part of consciousness that is taken over. For example, like here I am with our Archangel Gabriel, I'm holding him by his throat, and finally I see a sort of my consciousness jumps into him, and I see the real being suffering while there's this other consciousness taking over and enjoying it all. And I'm pushing this thing out, pushing this consciousness out. Like, again, it's not a body, it's not an energy, consciousness can't be measured or like anything like that, but it's hard to explain. It's really hard to explain for me. But there's a part where you can use your own consciousness to get that part out and clear it out. And so the real being who was there all along, who couldn't do stuff because it's being taken over, finally gets to breathe like, and it's finally there, the real archangel. And like I'm holding him by his throat. I see what happens. Like I sort of let go, and I see tears through his eyes, and he's like, thank you. Like he doesn't know like really what happened, but just from this moment he's like more aware, like finally full presence, full control of his own self again. So you can do this thing too. It's not like it's super advanced or I'm the only one that can do it. Everyone can do it. It just takes a bit of imagination or okay, be creative. If you cannot shift your consciousness, if you cannot look from their perspective, use your imagination. Think of what would it look like? What would it be like if I looked through my father's eyes? For example, your dad might be looking at the TV right now. Your dad might be drinking beer, might be playing with kids, might be doing something else. Your puppy might be sitting next to you. Your puppy might want go pee pee. You sitting here in this room, focus on anyone else or anyone really. It can be things. It doesn't have to be live beings. It can be this wardrobe, or let's say, come here. It can be Pikachu. It can be Pikachu. You can look from the perspective of Pikachu if you want. So anyone really, and you can basically focus on anyone, anything, and look through their eyes, through that thing. And if you literally feel the presence, as if you're sitting here, but it's as if you have eyes over there and you can see your own back. You have all the abilities. And now, once you know how it's done, you can literally, if you find anything negative, anything that's sort of in control, taking over, dominating, being negative, you can push that thing out. You can make it disappear. You can sort of, let's say, there's a technique where some people use galactic vacuum to sort of suck it up and transmute it to something better. There's also a technique where you can eat it. Like literally, there's this part of consciousness that's taking over and being negative. You're being a Pac-Man. You're eating this little thing. And now once you ate this little thing, this consciousness, this being that, you transmute it, within your own system, you transmute it and make it positive, you make it loving, or you simply release it. This negative part is no longer here. You can be conscious, you can do anything, but you're no longer in control and domination. And you literally have a way to look at anyone and anything, and if there's something bad going on, you just like literally go into their field and take away the negativity. And all of a sudden, it clears up and you see the brightness. So this is what happened in my recent session. It's really interesting. I'm gonna work with this more because like I haven't really done this thing much, but now I'm getting perspective of literally, hey, what if I really jump in their space? What's gonna happen if I tune into their consciousness, to their part, and be in their shoes? And I start finding out things I've like sort of haven't looked into recently. And it's awesome. It's really awesome. So hopefully you can use this thing. You can try it out, see what happens. And hey, I'm just sharing what I saw. I'm just sharing what I experienced. You can try it out if you want. I'm not trying to change your belief system or, control your life or do anything. It's all up to you. I'm just sharing my message. So if you like it, go for it. If you see like, hey, kind of cool, Philip, but like not really, so fuck you. Awesome. Thank you. So you take care of yourself. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.